So hello everyone, a very warm welcome to you all. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Get You Ready session focusing on careers in digital. So my name is Gloria Chang. I am a Widening Access Officer here at Brunel University London. Primarily my work is with schools and colleges. Unfortunately that has all been virtual, but it's brought about lots of excellent opportunities, and just like the session today, I hope that it can bring you a lot of new information and lots of questions as well that you may wish to ask. Now, the session today is going to be full of lots of different panelists who've joined us today, focusing on areas from different career prospects to placement opportunities, and we'll also have a chance to speak with some of our current students as well as an alumni student as well. So lots of things to cover in the next hour. Now, if you've seen already, this session is being recorded and will be able to be accessed on our website very shortly after this session. In addition to that, if you have any questions at all that you wish to ask our panelists throughout today, please use the Q&A button, which is located at the bottom. The Q&A will allow you to ask questions or enter comments, and will be asked on your behalf by me at the end of the session. Alternatively, there will also be opportunities where our panelists may wish to engage with you by using the Q&A bot as well. So please do use that. We can't wait to hear from you. We wish you could see you in person, but I hope that you enjoy this session as well. So I'm very pleased to be introducing Alison. Alison is from our careers department, and she'll be giving you an overview of what is there to be offered. So handing over to you, Alison. Thank you very much. Thanks,
Gloria. Can we have the next slide, please? I do feel as though I'm at a briefing at Downing Street at the moment when I say that. It's lovely to welcome you this afternoon. My name, as Gloria said, is Alison. I'm one of the careers consultants, and the careers department at Brunel is part of something called the Professional Development Centre. I'm giving this talk as I'm the careers consultant for digital media courses at Brunel. If you feel you can, put in the Q&A or the Q&A box which course you might be interested in studying. Don't worry if you don't yet know what you might be studying at Brunel, but it'd be really nice to know what course you might be studying at Brunel, so put it in the chat box. There are a couple of undergraduate courses for digital media, that's digital design and VFX and motion graphics, and there's also a postgraduate one on digital design and branding, and I'm the careers consultant for all those courses. Can we have the next slide, please? I'll talk a little bit next about the Professional Development Centre. So you can see that I'm obviously representing the careers department here, and my colleague Maria is going to talk a little bit about the placements team as well. If you are studying for any of those three courses that I've just mentioned, in fact, there are placement options as part of those three courses. So as a careers consultant, I work primarily with students in their first year of their undergraduate course, the final year of their undergraduate course, and then if you're studying a master's course, a postgraduate course, I work with you then as well. And obviously my job is mainly to help students find jobs. That's often part-time work or internships in the first year, and in the final year of either your undergraduate degree or your postgraduate degree, then I help you find a graduate level job. But we've got other departments as part of the Professional Development Centre, all with the aim of trying to help you to get the job that you hope to get, or the course that you want to get upon completion of your course at Brunel. And I know that Samirah, the alumna from one of the courses in digital media, is going to talk possibly a little bit more about the Entrepreneur Hub, because we have many students within digital courses who do set up their own businesses, and we have a fantastic department as part of the Professional Development Centre that helps students set up their own business, and that help's available for up to 3 years after you've left, exactly like Careers Help is too as well. So your help, you don't sort of escape us. We keep pestering you for 3 years after you've left Brunel. If you need our help, we're there for you. And then there's a range of other things that I won't go into too much depth about, but just to say that there are lots of other things that you can do, particularly in your first year at Brunel. You can learn another language, or you can develop a current language, a second language that you're already speaking and you want to develop further. Obviously, that helps your employability, which is why the modern languages department sits within our department, because it helps you become more employable. But it's also fun and a good way of getting to know other students. And the modern languages classes have continued to carry on throughout lockdown, throughout the last year. It's taken place online. So we've managed to carry on with the services that we've been offering throughout the last year and a half. We've got lots of employer events as well. I've sort of put employer events, job shop and volunteering all in one section here, but in fact there's 3 different sections there. And we have lots of employers who we're introducing students to all the time through various careers fairs and careers events. We've got an amazing employer events team who organise all those opportunities to talk to employers. Again, they've taken place online just recently. We're hoping very soon that they'll be face-to-face on campus. We have a job shop as well that helps students find jobs on campus, part-time jobs on campus. And we also have a jobs board that lists all sorts of job opportunities, including part-time jobs off campus as well. So if you are about to thinking about starting your first year at Brunel, then a part-time job might be very helpful to you, and we can help you to apply for those jobs. A fantastic volunteering department as well. We had a sort of an appreciation for all the amazing work that students do for voluntary organisations, and particularly for my students, for digital media students, so that's digital design, also marketing students. I work with digital marketing students as well. There are lovely opportunities to do some voluntary work using your digital design skills to help a charity set up a website, improve its social media presence, for example. So there's lovely opportunities to do some voluntary work from the moment you start at Brunel that help you become more employable, but also hopefully help you enjoy the course a bit more and help you practice your skills. And that leads me finally on to the other thing that we run, which is employability programs. And there are a number of different employability programs that we run, but the first one, or the main one that I'd like to talk about just briefly, is one called the Ready program, which is open to all students in their first year only at Brunel. And it's a group exercise called Ready, which runs for the first term in the evening, just for the first term for about 12 to 13 weeks, that gets students together in groups from different courses. So you get to know students from different courses, and you work on a project to help refugees in a refugee camp in Zambia. And we've had some amazing success, some fantastic projects. Do have a look at some. We've got a video on our website that you can watch about the Ready program. It's a wonderful way to engage with other students, to develop your ability to work in a group, to learn some presentation skills, for example. And again, from a design point of view, it's fantastic because you use your design skills in designing both the product or the service that you design for the refugees. But also at the end, you have to prepare a presentation using PowerPoint. And again, digital design students are come to the fore in this sort of task, because it's really, really helpful to have someone with the design skills at the end for that PowerPoint presentation, as well as your creativity throughout the scheme. But that's a number of different things that obviously you can see we are more than just the careers department. There are lots of different departments within the Professional Development Centre designed to help you from the moment you start at Brunel. Okay, so can we move on please to the next slide, Tanya, if that's okay? And I think my next slide, I'm going to talk particularly about careers that students from digital media courses go into. And I've just put some job titles there of job titles that students from digital media courses have gone into after they've left Brunel. And I'm sure you'll recognise many of those job titles, such as digital designer or graphic designer, VFX artist, for those of you thinking about the VFX course, motion graphic designer, again, for those of you doing VFX and motion graphics. in the last year, I've seen a large increase or a significant increase in the number of UX and UI design roles. That's user experience design and user interaction design. And as we all have moved online, increasingly, this is a job area that was already growing, but it has been growing even more in the last year. As, for example, we shop online, and organisations like Ocado and Tesco, the big supermarkets, they're trying to make their interaction with the websites far more user-friendly. So the user designer, a user experience designer, will work with the user interface designer. That's sort of UI is often part of UX design. And we've got lots of employers coming to campus, to Brunel, virtually at the moment, but also face-to-face when it's possible, to talk about their roles in UX and UI. For example, we had Goldman Sachs and Investment Bank come and talk about the vacancies that they have in UX design at the moment to help their in-house, the trades that their employees make in the financial markets, to make those trades really quickly so that their user experience, the website interface, is really quick and effective. And another example is of a UI design role we had with JCB, who make diggers, of course, and they were trying to make the user interface there in a JCB very, very effective so that the user can do exactly what they want to do quickly. I'm sure you might know what some of these jobs involve, but these are some of the job vacancies that students from digital media actually go into. So if we go on to the next slide, I think, yes, I've just put some useful websites here. If you want to do any research about the kind of skills, the type of job that you could go into at the end of your degree. And I've just got 2 slides with careers information websites on it. And you'll see that I've had put a little screenshot on the screen there from prospects.ac.uk. Very, very useful website for all sorts of graduate careers, whatever you want to do in digital, whether that's digital marketing, something to do with IT, something to do with digital design. There is careers information about all the range of careers that graduates can go into on the Prospects website. And I've just put the links to the UX, the VFX, and the game developer job profiles there, but there may be many more on that website that you would find useful. There's also all sorts of other careers advice there, such as what can I do with my degree? And I know for many of you that might be several years in the future, but if you are starting to think, where will this lead me? It's a good website to have a look at, because it tells you what design students or what IT students actually went into in the last few years. I have to say digital design has done very well, comparatively speaking, in the last year as we've all moved online. But it was a burgeoning area before that, and so was VFX as well, in the sense that there's a VFX shortage. But I know we've got a student on the VFX course going to talk to you in a few moments, so we might talk about that a bit more later. If we can move on to the next slide, talking about VFX and in fact screen skills, which accredits both our undergraduate degrees in the digital media department. We're one of the few universities in the London area that are accredited by Screen Skills. And we work closely with Screen Skills. They've run some fantastic career sessions for us in the last year, helping students make those first applications for jobs in the screen industry. And there is a wealth, an absolute wealth of careers information on Screen Skills website. So I do recommend that you look at it. I've just copied the job profile section there, and and that goes into probably a bit more depth than the Prospects website does, the website that I mentioned a few moments ago. So have a look on Screen Skills, and they link to an organisation called Access VFX, which is a wonderful mentoring scheme and careers information section about careers for junior entrants to the VFX industry. And several of my students have signed up to Access VFX and are mentored by people working in the VFX industry as well. So it's a relatively new scheme to help junior entrants to the profession, but I would really recommend that you have a look at those two, particularly if you're interested in VFX. Screen Skills for all sorts of careers related to digital media, Access VFX for VFX careers. Fantastic. I must speed up a little bit. I'm conscious of that. So can I have the next slide, please? I just want to just very briefly talk about the sorts of skills that employers look for in the digital industries. And this is true for a wide range of careers related to digital. So this could be digital marketing or IT careers, as well as digital design. And obviously technical ability. We're looking at technical skills related to the digital industry. So we're looking for your use of software. These are the sorts of skills that the degree courses at Brunel will help you to develop further. I'm sure many of you already know Adobe, for example, and other software, but technical ability is important. And that often is represented for digital design jobs with a portfolio, for VFX, probably on a show reel. And so do think about eventually what you might start to include in your portfolio or a show reel, because employers in this field particularly ask for examples of your work. And that obviously demonstrates your creativity as well. And creativity can come in a number of different formats. And again, try to be able to think of ways in which you can show your creativity. I've just given you an example of our Ready program at Brunel that encourages you to create a product and create slides that actually gives you an opportunity to show that you can design for a purpose, for a particular client, for example. A motivation. Do you do design in your spare time? Are you somebody who's already created their own website, for example? Are you motivated to actually work in this sector? And during your time at Brunel, there will be lots of opportunities to undertake things, join clubs and societies, do tasks, do projects as part of your degree that prove your motivation. The skills on the bottom line there are transferable skills that most employers will look for, but obviously communication is key. Digital is all about communication, team working skills as well. Obviously, you'll be working in a team with many other designers, the end user of your product, all sorts of different people. So teamwork, very important. And everybody needs to be well organized as well. So those are just a few of the skills that employers are looking for. And on my next slide, which is nearly my last slide, I just put a few ideas there of what you could be doing before you even start Brunel, to start to build up your skill set and to get to sort of prove your commitment to this area, particularly if you're looking for summer internships at the end of your first year or a placement between your second and third year. Personal projects, they show, I mean, a designer is always designing. As one of the design lecturers once said to me, and it's true, a designer loves to design, and they won't just do the work that's required of their course, they'll do other little design projects around it. So any personal project proves your commitment and develops your skills. I've mentioned voluntary work and how the Brunel volunteers provide fantastic volunteering opportunities for people who want to develop their design skills or their technical digital skills a bit further. Part-time jobs, remember those skills on my last slide where I talked about organization, teamwork, communication skills. Whatever you do in a part-time job, whether it's a barista, a sales assistant, that's really helpful in your ongoing career. And so we really like those sorts of part-time jobs that develop a range of skills and extracurricular activities. I haven't got time to list all the extracurricular activities you can get involved with at Brunel, but there are so many clubs, societies that you can get involved in, including the Digital Society, that you can actually help you with your career, but also just, again, hopefully get to meet other students outside of the lecture room, outside of your classes. Lots of things you can do, hopefully for fun, but also obviously to improve your chances of success. But I am a careers consultant, I would say that. Okay, I think that's I've just got one more slide, which is if you want to find out about any of the services that the Professional Development Centre offer, if you'd like to know a bit about the languages that we offer, anything to do with our entrepreneur help for those of you who want to be self-employed or run your own business, do have a look at the PDC website, the Professional Development Centre website. And I think, I'm sorry if I've overrun, I will shut up now. Sorry, Gloria.
Thank you so much, Alison, for all of that information. And as you've pointed out many different links for our students to go to. So please do have an additional look as well. So moving on from that session, I would like to present Maria, who's going to be talking about placement opportunities at university. Thank you, Maria.
Hi everyone. As Gloria's mentioned, my name is Maria and I'm a placement and internship advisor here at Brunel. So that means that I work with levels 2 students who are doing IT or electrical engineering courses. So not quite digital, but I have worked with digital students in the past. And I'm just going to very briefly talk through how the placements work at Brunel, what benefits they might be to you, but also the types of employers that we work with. So could I have my first slide, please? Thank you. So when you join Brunel, you will have an allocated placement advisor that is basically going to be there for you throughout the whole of your placement search and when you're out on placement. So you're not expected to do everything all by yourself. You will have someone here dedicated to support you through the whole process. And as part of our role, we deliver workshops, lectures, one-to-one meetings, basically focusing on everything that you need to support and boost your employability skills, as well as leaning more towards your personal and professional development. So we will provide you with advice and support in finding a placement within your sector, but also for those of you who may not be 100% sure which path they'd like to go on upon graduating or even for a placement, we're here to help support you in finding work, a meaningful work experience that is going to be relevant to what you would like to develop and do. With that in mind, we offer lots of guidance on CV writing, cover letter writing, interview and assessment centre advice, and we will offer mock interviews and mock assessment centres as well. So for those of you who may have never been through that experience before, we try to make it as less daunting as possible so that you're prepared going in, again, so you're not doing it on your own. Again, this may not be applicable for everybody, but we also help support you with writing applications, making any kind of disclosures or putting in reasonable adjustments in the workplace. And we work very closely with our University Disability and Dyslexia Service team. So if anybody who may have a disability, mental health condition or long-term health condition that would like support, that's all kind of packaged in as well with the whole placement experience and what we offer. Could I have the next slide, please? Fantastic. So here are some reasons to do a placement. And the first reason that you can see there looks very, very self-explanatory, but it's actually really important because gaining relevant recent experience is going to help you in the graduate market. And we'll touch upon that a bit in a minute. Doing a placement also helps improve your skills and your grades when you come back into your final year. And the reason for that is because you can apply all of the theory that you've learned currently in your undergraduate degree into the real world, into real work-life practice. And when you come back into your final year, you can use all of the learning that you've already gathered into not only boosting the quality of your assignments that you write, but a lot of students also use their learning experience to shape the dissertation or final project that they hand in. Having a placement also gives you a really good insight into the sector. A placement is only for a year, so if you have a placement and you decide at the end of it you want to go down a different path or you want to pursue it more, you're better set up for when you graduate to have an insight into where you would like to go. So it's a really helpful period of time where you can really get to know the job and whether that is for you when you graduate or whether you'd like to pursue a different avenue. It can also help you secure a suitable graduate job, and that ties in with the following point, because when you are out on placement, you will be networking with not only the people within your company or organisation, but also in different organisations, and you start to build a network of people that can help you when you graduate to look for opportunities or provide references, or even to open doors where it's possible. Could I have the next slide, please? Amazing. I appreciate I'm running through it, but I don't want to go over time. So some of the advantages of having a placement. So every year at Brunel, we measure our graduate outcomes to see how our students are doing. And it's been the same pattern for a multiple amount of years now, where our graduates who have got a placement do tend to have better graduate outcomes. And what we mean by that is that they tend to go into graduate level employment at a faster rate than those who don't have the experience. Alongside that, our placement graduates also have a higher salary on average across all of our Brunel courses than all of the students at Brunel who haven't done a placement, again on average. Now, what we do in the placement team and what we hopefully guide and support you and teach you to do, is to go through the recruitment process. And placement recruitment processes are very, very, very much aligned to graduate recruitment processes. So going through things like assessment centres, multiple interview stages, online applications versus CVs and cover letters, by helping you and supporting you to do that all in your second year, by the time you come to graduate, those recruitment processes are going to hopefully feel less daunting, and you'll know your way to kind of navigate through that, again with the help of your careers consultant who you can access in your final year. And again, just finally touching on the point that the higher percentage of our students, so this is quite relevant for those of you who may think that actually I would like to do a master's or I'd like to continue studying after my undergraduate degree, well, a higher percentage of our placement students do go on to do that, and along with a combination of work as well. Next slide, please. Fantastic. So this is my final slide. I've just put some companies that we work with quite often in the digital and IT related fields up there for you. As you can see, it's not an exclusive list, but these are the kind of companies that we see year in, year out our students going to. As I mentioned before, we will support you the whole way through in making those applications. But what we can also support you to do is to find your own placement. So if there's a particular company that you're interested in working with, or a particular type of experience that you're interested in undertaking that we may not have contacts in the industry of, or that we may not advertise, then we will help support you make applications to those companies too. And as Alison mentioned earlier, we have had students that have done their own entrepreneurial placements before, and that's something that we can definitely assist you with. So hopefully that's given you a very brief, quick overview of how placements work at Brunel. But if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria, for that very comprehensive breakdown of how placements work. And of course, placements are an excellent opportunity for students to gain that really vital work experience even before they've finished university. So thank you very much. And as always, if anyone has any questions that they would like to ask, please use our Q&A function and we'll be able to ask those at the end. So moving on from this session, really warm welcome to Tom. Tom is one of our current students at the university and here to talk about what it's like to study at Brunel. Over to you, Tom.
Hi there. Yeah, thanks, Gloria. I'm Tom. I'm a third year visual effects and motion graphics student here at Brunel. And yeah, I'm just here to talk to you about my experience at Brunel and sort of the journey I've taken and how I am where I am today. So a little bit about going into Brunel. My background before university was doing A-levels. I did art, product design and physics, which were all really, really good, but obviously have some relation to visual effects and motion graphics, but not that much. Upon finishing my A-levels, I actually nearly went to go and study something completely different, like more physics related. I was nearly going to do diagnostic radiography, but at the last minute I decided, you know what, I don't think this is the right route, and I think I made a really good decision, which was to take a gap year, and that allowed me to just take the time away to really consider my options. I got to travel a bit. I worked in a summer camp in America, and then upon coming back, started my first year at Brunel. And this takes me on to sort of trying to find the right course for you. I think the biggest thing for me during my gap year was just doing my research, really looking outside the sort of looking outside the box in terms of the potential courses. Probably if you're doing A-levels or GCSEs, you're probably thinking at the moment about maybe going into fine art, graphic design or illustration, but there is so many more options out there, and that's how I came across visual effects and motion graphics, and it just really piqued my interest, and I haven't looked back since. And I think the thing is as well is when you're applying to any kind of creative course, they're really not looking for the finished article. So that's my biggest piece of advice there, is that they're looking for potential. They're looking for your creative process, and if you're handing in a portfolio, If you're more of a fine artist but looking to go into graphic design, they're looking just for that attention to detail and that ideation process of getting from an idea to a final product. But yeah, that's just sort of my advice in terms of finding the right sort of course for you, and just really, yeah, do your research and really look kind of far in advance. Don't just look post like graduation, like where that job can take you. So I'm going down like a motion graphics route, so I know that I can go into motion graphics, but I could also go into character design, I could go into 3D graphics, I could go into, there's loads of different routes, and they kind of all sort of have their own little rabbit holes as soon as you start looking down them. But in terms of the university experience itself, Brunel has been incredible from day one. I'll quickly just talk about some of the things that really stood out to me whilst I've been here. The fact that Brunel is a campus setup makes it really useful for just being able to get around really quickly. You know, living on campus in first year literally kind of meant you could just sort of roll out of bed 5 minutes before your lecture and be on time, but also having sports facilities all around one place was really nice, and it made it very easy to socialise and interact with new people during that first year. The sports facilities and societies are like second to none. I really recommend so much just joining new sports. I'd never played, I played ultimate frisbee at university. I never played before I started, and now I'm men's captain in third year. So I think just really put yourself out there, try new things. You'll never have an opportunity like this again to just try new stuff. But yeah, teaching, but going sort of more towards the digital sort of route, Brunel is really good equipment and facilities wise for both digital design and visual effects and other digital courses. We have so many different cameras you can hire out. We have a green screen room, we have a photography studio, we have a motion capture studio, and all of this equipment as well is always 100%, it's like available to you anytime you want it. You just have to book it a lot of the time, and you can go and get it whenever you need it for any of the projects that you're working on. That's both university related and personal projects. So if you just have something you want to do on side, go ahead. You can go, you know, rent out this equipment whenever you want and use it, which was just, has been really useful. There's also a lot of opportunity on campus for work as well. So if you are looking for work, like Alison said before, there's a lot of part-time jobs that you can make use of. For example, being a student ambassador is one of them. There's also plenty of places like Costa and yeah, there's a lot of the places on campus you can get jobs as well. The only bad thing I've had with university experience, this is more from a personal sort of thing, I suppose, is just organisation. If you're good at it now, you'll be fine. But yeah, that's been the most difficulty. I think all of you will sort of find at some point you will run into, you know, leaving deadlines to the last minute. But it's all a good experience in the end because you learn from it. And the only thing I would have done differently at Brunel, you know, I'm coming to my sort of end of my experience now, but it's just I wish I would have done more in terms of joined more sports and stuff. I think I did quite a good job in joining a lot of new things, but I think, you know, just there's never an opportunity again that in your life where you kind of have this many different things you can try out. So I really recommend that. But moving on to my placement, so I'm currently in my fourth year. So between second and third year, I went and worked at a motion design studio in central London called Peter Anderson Studio. And this studio focuses on title sequence design and intro graphics. So I worked on the recent Dracula series that was on Netflix. The studio's also worked on Good Omens and Sherlock, and just from a standpoint of I can't recommend enough doing a placement year. It's just so good for everything I said before, like creating industry links, but having that year of experience before graduation just sets you up so well for the future. You know, if you can graduate with your degree and then also say you already have a year's experience, employers will already have so much more confidence in you because they know, you know, how, like the sort of mentality of working, you know how to deal with clients. You know, at university, you're constantly your own client, you're working to your own specification and what you want. But as soon as you, as a designer, start working for someone else, it's not what you want anymore. Unfortunately, it's what they want because they're paying for it. And I think having years worth of that mindset really sets you up. Yeah, I would definitely recommend a placement. And the personal development centre, as Alison was saying, is a professional development centre, sorry, is a really good place to go to if you want help writing your CV, interview advice. You know, I definitely went them throughout whilst trying to find my placement. You know, it was really good to constantly go back to them and be like, is it good yet? You know, what can I change? Go to them, my portfolio and things as well. But also the university has really good industry links. So as Alison and someone else said, that we actually have a lot of industry links with places and constantly have students go back to them. So Peter Anderson, the studio I worked at, every year for the last 5 years had a student from Brunel, because they trust that Brunel creates good students in work-wise, but also just keep that relationship going. So it's really good if you want to kind of, if you see someone else doing a placement somewhere else you like the look of, there's nothing stopping you asking them how did they get their job and how you could maybe go about approaching that as well. But in terms of the course itself, getting you ready for the world of work, it did a really good job, because I think the thing that I've noticed more about Brunel's courses, from digital design and visual effects more than anything, is that all of the work that we do is related back to the industry. So all of our assignments aren't just sort of focusing on kind of just sort of creating nice pictures and things. A lot of it's like we've got a brief and we do live briefs. So in third year we worked with HSBC on one of our projects, which was really interesting to sort of actually get live feedback from them as what they think we're doing and how we're doing it. So the content that you do on the course is constantly relatable to what you'll actually be doing in the future. And obviously that placement as well has kind of set me up better for the world of work. And in terms of plans for the future, I'm currently interested in going into more 3D and motion graphics and stuff. So I'm currently looking for work in London. Luckily, obviously, Brunel being close to London makes it easy to find those links. And hopefully going to go into freelance in the future as well. But if there's anything I missed at all, if anyone has any questions or anything, then I'm happy to answer. Yeah, that's pretty much my university experience.
Thank you so much, Tom, for speaking so openly about your experiences, and hopefully for our attendees and those watching, they'll be able to really see what's available out there. I think it's really good to have that sort of heads up knowledge as well. You don't have to do everything from the first year onwards, but having that knowledge of what's available and knowing that in your second and your third year, when you have become more independent, or you have got your time management better, you can fit more of that stuff in. So thank you so much, Tom, and I'm sure we'll have some questions here towards the end as well. So thank you so much, and that brings us to our next session. We're really pleased to be joined by Samirah. Samirah was one of our former students and has come back here today to talk about her experience of her studies and what she does now. So thank you so much for joining us, and passing over to you now.
Thank you so much, Gloria. So yeah, as Gloria said, I studied at Brunel from 2014 and I graduated in 2018. So I did actually do a placement year at Brunel as well. Prior to that, I actually didn't have much of a creative background. I think the most creative thing that I did was probably using PowerPoint. So I came from quite a traditional school. So in that sense, I would say don't worry if you haven't used Adobe, because I threw myself in the deep end. I'd never used Photoshop or anything like that. But I would say the great thing, especially in first year, you kind of start at a really basic level. they teach you how to use Photoshop and any other software that you might need to use. So I think that was really helpful for me. And I also couldn't draw or anything like that. And I think at the beginning, that was a huge concern for me. But one thing that I would say about digital design is it's so varied. So we did font designs, we did script writing, we did graphic design. And I think that's one thing that I'm really grateful that I went down that route, because you also have courses where they might specialize in computer design or graphic design, for example. Whereas with this course, you get an insight into coding, whether you enjoy that, whether you'd rather go down the graphic design route. So yeah, I think that was really, really helpful. In terms of my placement, so as Alison mentioned, I did actually work for myself. Prior to that, I still did apply at other places. So I applied for places like Nike, and it was amazing. But when I wasn't chosen, I think from that experience, I was actually inspired from the interview processes, from seeing you know, how they operate. So I think that's the reason why I decided, actually, if I have the opportunity to do so, I'd like to use that year to build more of a stronger foundation for my business. So actually I was able to do that with the support of the Entrepreneur Hub that's available at Brunel. And alongside that, there were many events that were run throughout the year. So I was able to work on presentation skills, work alongside other businesses, do pitches. So actually, skills that I might have got from working in a company, I still was able to attain those skills, which I think was great. So I wasn't just by myself. It felt like I still had a community, I still had support. So that's definitely an option you guys do have. As I mentioned, I think I would still recommend you looking around at companies that do exist and still applying, and you know, you might surprise yourself by finding a company that you actually do want to work for. So I'd still be open-minded about that. So yeah, that's a little bit more about my placement. I know everyone might not want to work for themselves, so I'll keep that quite brief for now. But if you do have any questions, then please do use the Q&A box. The other thing that I would say is, if I could do something differently, I definitely would have made more use of spaces like LinkedIn. So say, for example, there's a job role that you're interested in, I would go and find people working within that field, and you can see the types of projects that they work on. I feel like if I had done that from the get-go, then I think I would have had a better idea of which career path I'd like to go down, because as I said, digital design is so varied. But having said that, I'm really excited to still be working on my business. It's been 3 years since I've graduated, and it's still going strength to strength. And as Tom mentioned, I would say a lot of that is down to the fact that Brunel had so many facilities, even the MacBook suites that we had, the photo studios, which was really useful for my business, which is a women's clothing brand. So as you can imagine, yeah, I really made the most of that and utilized that. So that's one thing that I would definitely recommend. Just to touch a little bit more on the Entrepreneur Hub as well. It's an amazing space where you can find like-minded people, and even if you don't have a existing business already, I would still really recommend you to join, just because there are so many transferable skills you can pick up there, and you never know, you could find a business partner, or you could you know, utilize that later down in your university career. So yeah, I would definitely recommend joining. Other than that, there's so many societies. Just like Tom, I feel like I wish I joined more societies, I wish I did more, but I think also maybe everyone has that same feeling once it comes to the end of their university time. I'm just thinking what else I wish I knew before I started university. I would say another thing as well is try to incorporate the projects into your future career. So what I mean by that is, once I decided that I wanted to work on my fashion line, I tried to fit all of my projects around that so that it was beneficial for me. Whereas other friends, for example, decided to integrate other companies into their projects, so that when they were going for interviews, they were able to use those projects, and I think that really helped them stand out. But in my instance, one of the projects that we had was to look into technology in the future. So although that was the brief, I fit that around fashion, and I decided to look into technology in the fashion industry. And as you can imagine, that was really useful. And I think that's what's quite different between school and university. You can really make it personal to yourself, and it's all about your self-growth, and it's an amazing opportunity to work on that. And I think university in general, it's kind of an experience that you can't really get anywhere else. And as Tom mentioned, I think it does make a huge difference to live on campus. I think it just allows you to do more. You can sort of roll out of bed and go to these societies, go to these events. So if you are in a position to do that, then I would definitely recommend that. I also worked a lot at Brunel as a student ambassador, and they also had various other roles. And I think it's really important to do that during your time at university, because of the skills that you do build up, and just things like confidence, which you may think you can't pick up from these jobs, but you absolutely can. And in the space of 3 years, you can only imagine, if you start from the beginning, it gives you a great window of opportunity to build on those skills. So I wish someone told me that sooner as well. So yeah, I think that's pretty much my time at Brunel. I'm not sure if I've missed anything or if there's any questions in the Q&A. But yeah, I don't know if I've missed anything, Alison, that you might have wanted me to mention about the Entrepreneur Hub.
Sorry, I was muted there, Samirah. Sorry about that. I think you did it beautifully. I do think that it is, in a way, people set up their own businesses at Brunel, and we've got some. So I'll put my camera on as well. We've got some fantastic businesses that have been set up. But as well as that, it's about those people who just want to be self-employed as well. There's almost a difference, isn't there, between people setting up their own business and being self-employed, probably working as a freelancer, particularly. There's a lot of freelance work in both VFX and digital design. And the Entrepreneur Hub advisors are there to help you if you are a freelancer as well, and support you for the first few years of your career. So no, lovely, fantastic to hear your success as well, Samirah. So it's really good to hear from you this afternoon. So thank you for that. That's brilliant.
I was just going to say as well, so I did do my placement year in my business, but one thing that I would say, if that's an avenue that you'd like to go down, I think it's worth starting now, even if it's just a business plan or some sort of foundation. I think that's definitely one of the reasons why I was able to graduate and continue working for myself. But during my placement year, it was definitely difficult in terms of supporting myself financially. And I think that's where I was very fortunate to have other jobs that I did have. And I also really did keep my options open. So I did internships with, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but with Thomson Reuters. So it's very different to sort of what I'm doing in the digital field. But what that meant is I did have transferable skills. And when I did have that on my CV, it showed that, I had a wide variety of skills and companies that I've worked for as well. So yeah, if you are interested, I would say at least start thinking about it now, and just building those skills from early. I think that's definitely the key thing I would pass on to everyone.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Samirah, for sharing your experiences. And it's fantastic to hear that you're doing so well as well after your graduation. So we are moving on to our Q&A section of this session. And I do have a number of questions, and I would like to invite all of our panelists to be open to receiving some questions. So my first question, I'm going to be asking Maria. Maria, you previously on your slide spoke about some of the different employers that the university works with. Could you talk a bit about what sort of placement roles actually exist? I think sometimes when we think of placement, think, oh, the person's not graduated yet. Do they have the skills? Can they do it? Are we going to make them make teas and coffees? But what is it that students actually tend to do on placement?
Well, this is where it quite interesting, because as long as the learning outcomes of a placement meet the degree that you are studying, there's quite a degree of flexibility regarding what your interests lie. So usually in the digital courses, we have a lot of students that go, as Alison mentioned before, down the UX, UI route. Sorry, we also have students that go into digital design or even digital marketing. And then we have games design and VFX as well. VFX is harder to come by, but we are seeing more opportunities now than we were 3 or 4 years ago, which is a good thing. So it completely depends on the student and what they're really interested in. And as like I said, as long as it relates back to the degree and we can prove that they have learning outcomes, we can normally be quite flexible in terms of what they can do. I hope that answers it.
Fantastic, thank you so much. Now I have another question, which is about the use of our professional development centre. And Alison, you mentioned how it's almost like an umbrella for the opportunities that exist at the university. Now, is there a limit as to how much a student can access these services? I know you mentioned they can access even after they've left university as well, but when they're a student, can they come to you for multiple things, or are they limited at times?
Well, yeah, there is. They can see us every week if they want to. Certainly, if they're that sad, not sad. If they're that sort of going to be gluttons for punishment to see us every week. But what I find is I see a student several times whilst they're looking for a job, and that's when they get a job. Obviously, they're fine, and they might come back in a few months' time and look for another job. And this goes on, as I said, for 3 years after they've left. So we will see students when they get their first graduate job. Then often in this field, it may be a 6-month contract and 1-year contract. They might need help perhaps looking for their second job as well. So that goes on. So there isn't a limit. And we will help them with a wide range of things, such as I think Maria talked earlier about CVs, cover letters. This morning, I've been seeing students on one-to-one appointments, and I've been doing lots of mock interview practices because I've got several students going for an interview tomorrow. So it's a wide range of things we'll do. And so as far as careers is concerned, there's several times you can see a student. Obviously, there will be a limit. We tend to say once a week, but if you've got an interview coming up, I'm going to give you a couple of appointments just in case if you need it. Some students don't need it. It's up to you. It's up to you to choose to come to see us.
Fantastic.
That was okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you know, if students might think, oh, I've already been to check my CV, or can I have the time for a mock interview, for example. But absolutely excellent to know just how how much support is available to everyone. So I would really advise you to seek it out at university as well. I have a question for Tom. So Tom, you mentioned your course while you studied it, you've been taking out a gap year to really make sure that you have chosen something that you're really interested in. Now, going back to it, it's a quite personal question, but did you choose it because you were genuinely have great skills, or was it just the description that caught your eye? What was it, and what do you think's the most important?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think it's funny because looking back, I was so, especially during my gap year, all the universities I visited for creative courses, I was like, I have to go and see it. I have to go there, experience. And I do recommend that. Going to the university campus gives you a completely new perspective, because obviously marketing online, they're trying to sell you at the end of the day, and you don't truly know how it feels, what it would be like, unless you kind of put yourself in that position. And actually during that year, I didn't apply to Brunel out of my 5 options on my UCAS application. I actually accepted somewhere else. And 3 days before I went to America, I literally sort of turned to my parents and was like, actually, you know what? I don't think I want to go and do that other course anymore. Visual effects and motion graphics just piques my interest. And I think that's a big thing with it, is I think the course just really has to just pique your interest. And I knew it was quite an up and coming sort of industry in the UK. So I suppose that kind of goes back to just doing research and looking into potential directions. I kind of sort of looked into a visual effects artist sort of job, and generally speaking, a visual effects artist doesn't really exist, because a visual effects studio is made up of lots of different jobs that create a visual effects sort of thing, you know, for a movie or a show or whatever. And it just really made me very interested in around like the whole kind of aspect of this sort of post-production industry. And it constantly sort of goes back to just sort of looking beyond the standard sort of course. Originally I was going to go and do graphic design, but then suddenly I realized, oh, graphic design animated is motion graphics, like it's that kind of the next level sort of thing. I hope that answers it. But yeah, I just had a keen interest, I suppose, and it just, I mean, I didn't even visit Brunel in the end, so I kind of went completely against what I originally said, and sort of went completely on a whim and just sort of like, this just looks really interesting, and I haven't looked back since. So
thank you so much, and of course I'm glad it worked out
yeah.
in the end. Now I have a question for Samirah. Samirah, you've talked about what it's like having your own business, and so going back a bit, you know, what was the most challenging aspect of starting your business? And actually, as a two-parter, now as we have gone through the past year, how has it been through going through the pandemic as a small business?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think the thing with me was before it was a business, it was sort of more of a hobby, and I think it was that transition where Brunel really came in, because it just became more professional, it became more serious, whereas before it was just when I had time, or it was because I enjoyed doing it. So I would say, yeah, it went from hobby to being a business. But when I was at Brunel, as I said, it became more of a brand. So with the help of the Entrepreneur Hub, I had a business plan. I thought about things that I hadn't even thought about prior to that, just because it was a hobby. I set up the company, I built my website, and just the social side of it as well. In terms of this past year, so purely because of the pandemic, it has been really, really difficult. Thankfully for everyone listening, this situation probably won't arise again. But I think for me, it just highlighted the fact that you do have to have a strong foundation if that's what you want to do as your full-time job. But I would also say the amazing thing about this course is, as Alison mentioned, you can kind of also do freelancing. So to kind of keep myself going, I did a bit of that as well. So I did social media work for other businesses, and I also did business consulting as well. So I think that's the amazing thing about this course. You don't have to just stick to one thing. And because we learn such a wide array of skills, you can kind of go beyond that and do freelance, as Alison said. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, my business is still thriving. So I would always recommend people, if you do have an idea, go for it. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And we've received a question, and Alison and Maria, I think this one's more geared towards yourselves. The question reads that the student is more into Formula One. They aspire to be part of any F1 team as a head of digital media. They wanted to know if Brunel was able to help them in achieving this dream. So Alison and Maria, over to you.
Well, we actually have students who go to F1, don't we, Maria? So yes.
I was just going to mention, we've actually got a student going to Alpine F1, obviously Formula One, this year on their placement. So it's definitely a connection that Brunel have. Alison, you can probably go more on the career side, but I know from placement side that is definitely something that occurs.
Yes, and we've got a graduate who's working for them too. So yeah, we've got good links with F1. Actually, but I say we've got good links. We've got alumni and current students working there, and so that is always helpful, isn't it? But when you're thinking about your career, it's also looking at what do you have to offer that organisation. To have a passion for an area is so important these days. To have that interest in the employer and their business and what they do, that's what so many employers are looking for. The skills they can almost train you in, it's that commitment. So if you know now there's a particular sector of industry you want to work in, or a particular employer, and throughout your time at university you're trying to connect with those people who work there, you're coming along to the careers events that our employer engagement team put on, you're meeting their representatives, you're talking to our alumni who work there already. That's the beauty of a university. We have an alumni network. Samirah is part of it, and alumni who are currently working in that sector are very happy to talk to current students about their careers and their organisations. But I think it's wonderful to know what you want to do like that. Don't worry if you don't. That's what the careers service is there for you. But if you do know, then start to make connections, use your networking skills, and then just also really think about F1. Start to do some of those personal projects. How would you redesign some of the assets that F1 have on their website, on their apps, on social media? Have a look at give yourself a personal project, and that you can put in your portfolio. That will impress them. But yeah, but I mean, Formula One's a good one to mention, because we do know lots of people, well, not lots, but several students who've worked there or who do still work there now. So yeah.
Fantastic, thank you so much for that. And I suppose I just have one quick fire question I would really like to ask Tom and Samirah, and it is, what is one skill that going to Brunel has given you or equipped you with to be where you are now? And Tom looks like he's thinking the most. I'm going to start with him.
I think I suppose just having a more I don't know, it's like difficult. I think actually okay, so for our course, pitching, so being able to explain your ideas more clearly. I think something I was so scared of at the start of Brunel. I was so you know, my work was like my precious thing. I didn't want to show it to anyone. And then I think throughout Brunel, I've constantly been told, like, no, just tell us what you're thinking about your idea, and we'll feed back to you. And doing that over and over again has built my confidence. And actually, you know, I now actually like sharing my ideas rather than keeping them to myself.
Fantastic, thank you. And Samirah?
I would say for me, I think it's elevated my creativity more than anything. And I would say it's because of the equipment that I had access to, so even just the cameras and the green screen room, and it kind of pushed me out of our comfort zone. So for example, we've had to film like short movies, and it's something that I just never would have done before. And as I said, I think it's because the course is so varied. It's not just graphic design, so I think it's pushing my creativity to that next level.
Fantastic, thank you so much to everybody that has joined us today, to Alison, Maria, Tom and Samirah, and thank you to our attendees for this session as well, and of course our wider Brunel team for helping us make this happen. So that brings us to the end of today's session. We really hope that you've been able to gain a further insight into careers and digital industry as a whole. There are a few things I should follow up on. So for example, next week is our final week of our Get You Ready programme, and next week we'll be focusing on, in the study session, quoting evidence to support your argument for your first year essay, and report writing in STEM. And next Thursday will be our final session, careers in engineering. So if that takes your fancy, please do sign up online. If you are wanting to try your luck, please fill out our feedback survey. There are two £50 Amazon vouchers up for grabs. I would do it if I could. So definitely, please give us your feedback and let us know how we can do better or what you enjoyed about today. Also, just go onto our website in general if you want to find out more information. And above all else, thank you so much for attending, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you to all of our speakers as well. Take care and bye-bye.